Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lou Ann Crumpler, Director of the Carolina Hunger Initiative and No Kid Hungry North Carolina at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Center for Health Promotion and Disease Prevention. On behalf of our collaborators, I want to welcome you today. Our collaborators include the Office of the Governor and the North Carolina Alliance for Health, led by Morgan Grauman. Today, Andrew Harrell will be presenting on behalf of our team. He'll be assisted by Janice Sauer, and then Morgan will also be involved. I want to especially mention our teammate, Helen Roberts, who couldn't be with us today. Many of you know Helen, but she will definitely be involved in the process of talking with you all, helping with technical assistance, and being available whenever you need her. I want to just take a minute to talk about how this began and the fact that our governor is so committed to education and so committed to kids being able to eat meals at school that he is the one who directed this amazing opportunity to come your way. We were recently with him at a classroom visit on October 24th in Durham, and he did a fantastic job expressing his enthusiasm for this program. So thank you all for being here today. I'll turn it over to Andrew and to Morgan and to Jana, and we'll get on with a great seminar. Thank you all so much for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I just wanted to do a quick introduction as well. I'm Morgan Whitman-Grauman with the North Carolina Alliance for Health, and we are a statewide nonpartisan coalition, and we focus on state-level health policies that reduce health disparities. So we've been involved in school nutrition-focused state-level policies for quite a few years now, including the indirect cost changes, and most recently, and super excitedly, the permanent funding for the reduced price lunch copay. So really excited to be here and help support this work. Longtime partners of Carolina Hunger Initiative as well. So just really thrilled to be here and to help with this initiative.
Thanks, Morgan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew. I work with Carolina Hunger Initiative. I recognize a lot of names on here, and let me just say up front that we're always really grateful to be involved in the school nutrition community and to be working in ways that we can support the incredible work that y'all do to feed kids through schools. And we're really hopeful that this program is going to make an impact on access to healthy food for kids and make an impact on the work that you guys do in schools. A few logistical details to share with you up front. This webinar will be recorded, and we will share the link out to you afterward. I've already started a list of a few specific resources that we're going to mention that I'll make sure you have the links to as well. We're in a Zoom meeting style right now. You'll probably notice that you can't unmute yet, but I'll change that when we get to the second half for questions if you're interested in speaking up. We've also got a chat and a QA button on Zoom. Feel free to start plugging in questions at any time, and we'll take a lot of this chunk of this webinar at the end to work on addressing those. Just a little bit about what to expect from the next 50 minutes or so. I know that we've got a lot of school nutrition people here who already understand the background on school breakfast and innovative approaches, but I know we have some board members and school social workers and others who have signed up. So we will have a little about 10 minutes of background about the why of this program as an introduction. Then we'll spend about 10 or 15 minutes going over the application, the instructions, and really getting into detail about what we're asking for, what's possible with this grant program. And then from there, we'll just open it up to questions. And we're really hopeful that in addition to questions about what we already know, we might learn a little something from you guys about what we can do to make this process easier, or questions that we need to go back to our partners to still resolve. So thank you for being here, and let's get started with a little bit about the overview of the program. So these are just the headlines. These are grants of up to $50,000. They'll be provided as reimbursements for expenses made between July 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2024. NC schools that currently operate the school breakfast program are eligible. That goes from publics to charters, federal schools. If you operate the school breakfast program right now, you're eligible. And applications are due December 1st. I know you've probably got questions already, but those are just the headlines I want you to know about the program we're discussing today and what we're getting into, and you'll learn more shortly. When it comes to the impact that we're hoping to make with these programs and their focus, this reimbursement grant program is designed to expand access to school breakfast through the use of innovative service models and with priority for new community eligibility provision or CEP schools. So we just want to take a minute on each of those to explain why that's the focus of this grant program. So why school breakfast? I think a lot of us are aware there's a big opportunity for growth with school breakfast. And the average school participation is lower than it is with school lunch. And we know there's a huge possibility for the academic and social and emotional benefits that a student can get from eating a healthy meal at school to start off their school day. Not just for the kids who are eating the meals, but really for the entire classroom when it comes to, a student who might be disruptive or despondent because they're hungry, affecting an entire class. When we talk about that opportunity for growth, we also know that higher participation means higher reimbursements for your school nutrition departments. And higher participation obviously also means more kids getting the benefit of healthy school meals. I'm going to throw it over to my colleague Jana from Carolina Hunger Initiative to talk a little about why we're focusing on innovative methods to serving school breakfast.
Good afternoon, everyone. Even when meals are available to all students in a school at no cost to families, barriers such as time, place, and stigma can keep kids from accessing them. For example, breakfast is traditionally served before the first school bell even rings, and it might be served in a cafeteria on the other side of campus from the classroom where the student needs to be at the start of the day. And many students are often self-conscious about being singled out for participating in school meals and being perceived as poor. So innovative methods are really focused on overcoming these barriers by moving breakfast out of the cafeteria and making it a standard part of the school day and making it a community experience. Additionally, innovative methods have been proven to increase participation in school breakfast. Innovative service is also known as breakfast after the bell, and there are three main models that we suggest using. First is breakfast in the classroom, and that's where breakfast is served and eaten in the classroom, and this process usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. There's grab and go breakfast, where it's served from one or more central locations, and then the students take the food to classrooms or another common area. And the last is second chance breakfast, where breakfast is served between first and second periods, and students either go back to their classroom or cafeterias are actually reopened, and students are given time to eat between classes. From here, there are different models that work better for different schools. Often breakfast in the classroom is well suited for elementaries, and second chance is a good option for high schools. So we suggest starting with these basic models, but we also understand that district budgets and school layouts and staff sizes are all different, and that you might want to adjust programs to fit your needs. So what counts as innovative? Other innovative approaches are eligible for this grant, but they should both meet the following: be focused on increasing participation, and move breakfast out of the cafeteria or after the bell and into the school day. So back to our why. 31% of North Carolina students are currently chronically absent from school. Breakfast after the bell models, not school breakfast in general, but innovative breakfast service specifically, have been shown to reduce chronic absenteeism by 6 percentage points on average. The same study quantified other benefits for students in schools created by these innovative breakfast models. In elementary schools, reading achievement improved by 1.5 percentage points. And can you go to the next slide, please? And then social and emotional behaviors improved by 6 percentage points. and Andrew is going to take it back from here and talk to us about why CEP.
Thank you, Jana. I think a lot of us have anecdotal evidence or instinctual knowledge that these programs make a huge impact on kids. But I'm really grateful for these studies and data that we get from partners like No Kid Hungry that kind of quantify things like chronic absenteeism and how these programs are making an impact, especially with something that's so relevant to North Carolina right now. Luann mentioned the visit that the governor made to Glenn Elementary in Durham a few weeks ago, and Principal Hunt at Glenn Elementary talked about the instructional time that his school had added by serving breakfast in the classroom. Again, back to our innovative models and what works best for your school. They were bringing breakfast to the classroom before the bell began, but in the classroom so that students who arrived early were able to sit there in the classroom with their teacher eating a meal, doing a math problem to start the day from the blackboard, and add minutes of instructional time that I think added up to like 3 weeks over the course of the year. So huge impacts that this program can make on the school culture and academics, as well as the health of kids. As Jana said, our last question to address, why the community eligibility provision, or CEP? As you guys already know, the community eligibility provision is a federal program that plays a big role in increasing access to healthy school meals. For families, it's very simple. Every student in a CEP school can eat meals at no cost to their families. For the schools and districts operating CEP, a little more complicated. And we know that maintaining a high participation rate is essential to maintaining high federal reimbursements and keeping the program sustainable. Especially true when North Carolina, like this year, has added a ton of new CEP schools, and a lot of them have lower ISPs and are placing a little more risk on their programs by making this happen for families. So the through line here, because CEP depends on high participation and innovative breakfast programs increase participation, they're a dream combination for expanding access to healthy school meals. And we really encourage that they are used together. So moving on to our actual application and getting into the meat of how this program is going to work. A quick hello to anyone who's joined in the past 5 or 10 minutes. And just a reminder that any questions or chat questions that you want to share as we start to go through this, please start plugging them in and we'll get to them in about 15 minutes at the end of the webinar. The URL you see at the top of the screen there, carolinahungerinitiative.org/application. That is where you can be taken directly to this form that you'll use to apply. We've been over a lot of the introductory information to this grant opportunity already. Once again, Governor Cooper has directed these federal funds to support this program. I know it'll be important for your districts to know that these are federal funds. However, they're not from the USDA. We'll specify a little later where exactly these funds are coming from. When it comes to instructions for how to use this application and what we're asking for, we estimate the application will take around an hour to complete. You can save as you go with a button at the bottom of each page on the application. You'll be asked to provide this information, your contact information for yourself, your nutrition department, your finance officer, and also for a superintendent or assistant superintendent who's willing to be described as supportive of this plan for innovative breakfast or the work you're doing. We've just found that leadership team, admin support from another officer at the district level is really crucial to help bringing people on board to these innovative programs. We'll ask for a proposal overview where you give us an idea of the total budget that you're asking to be reimbursed for, as well as about a 6-sentence paragraph describing the overall plan that you've done or hope to do. And finally, the bulk of your information will be entered in a spreadsheet that you can download and re-upload right here in the application. There's 2 things that's asking for. One is just a list of the expenses that you're looking to be reimbursed for. And 2, the schools that are participating in innovative breakfast and are being impacted by those expenses. You do not have to provide any documentation for your reimbursements right now. If you're selected for this grant and approved, that's when we'll start the documentation process for those expenses. But right now, we just want to see a list of what you're asking for. Eligibility. Most schools in North Carolina are eligible for this grant. Really what we're looking for is that you're already participating in the school breakfast program. That includes traditional public schools, that includes charter schools, that includes private schools and federal schools. I think there are some residential care institutions as well, but you have to be operating specifically the school breakfast program, not just the National School Lunch Program, the federal USDA run program. Priority will be given to schools that are new to CEP this year. Again, we're really trying to combine these innovative breakfast programs with CEP. This is a competitive grant application. Applying does not guarantee reimbursement funding. We will be evaluating applications based on things like the number of students who could be impacted, the sustainability of your funding, support from people like principals or teachers, and things of that nature might be kind of secondary considerations. One of the goals from the governor's office in placing a cap on the amount of funding is try to impact as many districts as possible and show some equity with this opportunity. Finally, who should fill out this application? Again, we're really fortunate that we've gotten some interest from people like teachers and board members and school social workers, and we're thrilled about that. We do ask that the actual applications go through the district level and through the school nutrition office, or whoever the school nutrition office chooses to work with, whether your district has a grant writer or a finance officer or someone like that. But we want to make sure that school nutrition office is aware of what's going on and in charge of these plans. Next, the timeline. Our deadline for applications is Friday, December 1st. I realize that's a tight deadline for this opportunity. We're partly motivated by the deadlines that we have to work under to get out this federal funding. And we also want to do as quick as we can, get this funding into your hands so it can continue to make an impact. If you have concerns about getting an application together or the deadline, or really anything else that we discussed today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us to let us know what your barriers are and let us help find a way to make things work and make things easier for you. That's why we're here. Applications due Friday, December 1st, and applicants will be notified about the decision by mid-January. In just a minute, Morgan will go more over the reimbursement details and deadlines. But if you're approved for an application, once your once your reimbursement process is started, it'll also kick off a timeline for your reporting follow-ups. We expect kind of a 4-month and a 9-month follow-up that'll be relatively light. Finally, I want to make sure you know that your new plan implementation can begin as late as the 24-25 school year. So we've got this strange reimbursement period where you can date things back to the 2022-2023 school year. And that means you've already started your breakfast program. Hopefully it's going well. And we're just supporting you with funding that you spent to make that happen. But if you're looking to be pre-approved for upcoming expenses for a new program, we want you to know that we understand it takes a while sometimes to place those orders, to get equipment shipped to you, and to implement that program with staff training and things like that. And we're permitting those programs to begin as late as next school year. Next, the reimbursement process. In just a minute, I'm going to let Morgan go into more detail on this. But our reimbursement period, any expenses you've made from July 1st, 2022, last school year, to June 30th, 2024, are eligible for reimbursement as part of this grant program. That's an odd period, and it divides us kind of into two possible scenarios, which you'll specify on your application. Being reimbursed for innovative breakfast experiences that you've already made, or being sort of pre-approved for upcoming expenses that you plan to make for a new innovative breakfast service program. You are eligible to kind of do a combination of those options, but that's the period when funds are going to be available, and we wanted to make sure that you have as many options as possible. for these reimbursements. I've lost control of my PowerPoint. Let's see. Reimbursements. Once again, documentation for reimbursements is only needed if you're approved for a grant, not on the application. We're just looking for information about what you'd like to be reimbursed for. Let's see, use of funds. Every application budget should be between $10,000 and $15,000. And I want to stress that funds are intended to support innovative school breakfast service programs. So a little more on that. This is a list of the types of things that are eligible under this grant when it comes to your reimbursement expenses. Food costs are not permitted. And for other things, you know, you might have things that can be used for other programs. You might have things that are disposable items. We're asking you to explain and justify how this is related to your innovative breakfast service program. We will probably be prioritizing things that help get a new program off the ground and costs that are going to make an impact year over year, like higher end equipment such as kiosks, carts, cooler bags that help get these programs off the ground and are kind of the central components. Just a quick note about funding. I mentioned up top, these are federal funds. They're not USDA funds. They originated with the Emergency Assistance for Non-Public Schools, EAMS, and they reverted to the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, or GEAR funds. These are GEAR funds. I'm sure at some point, if you're approved for a grant, you'll need to know that as part of your own in-district reporting. Let's see. So a little more about the actual application and how it works. Once again, the URL to get directly there is right here up top. This is what it looks like on the front page. These are the kinds of things that you'll see in that spreadsheet that we're asking you to download, fill out, and re-upload. Once again, you'll just kind of list out the expenses that you're hoping to be reimbursed for, with a little additional information about their costs and which school they've applied to and when they were made. And then the same thing for the schools, listing out the schools that are participating in these innovative service models that you're using funds to have supported or will support. So I'm going to turn it back over to Morgan and to give us a little bit more information on how this reimbursement process will work.
Thanks, Andrew. So I just wanted to, in addition to some of the things Andrew said, which I'm going to repeat because I think that they're really, really critical, also just wanted to touch base on a couple of other things that I wanted to highlight. So the first is that the disposition letters, so letting you know whether you've been awarded a grant or not, are going to come from the North Carolina Alliance for Health. So please be on the lookout for a North Carolina Alliance for Health, excuse me, email address. It will not come from Carolina Hunger Initiative. And that's the same for requests for receipts and additional financial reporting and things like that. It's all going to come from the North Carolina Alliance for Health. So I want to make sure people are aware of that. Also, as Andrew's already addressed a couple of times, but is really critical, the reimbursements are for purchases made on or after July 1st, 2022, and reimbursements for purchases made through June 30th, 2024. So part of your application could be kind of our promise of a reimbursement for something, a future purchase that you're going to make. But I want to clarify that these are reimbursements, so we cannot prepay for anything. In order to send them the check, I will need a receipt or proof of purchase from you that shows the date of the purchase, the amount of the purchase, what the purchase was for, and then how that purchase connects to supporting innovative school breakfast. So again, won't need that for the application, but just be aware that we will need all of that documentation if your application is chosen and you receive the reimbursements. Also wanted to note it will take about 3 weeks to get the funds to you once I receive that documentation. So just for any planning that timeline may be helpful for about 3 months. And again, just assuring that the expenses you're being reimbursed for are connected to innovative school breakfast, and that you can show the connection between the purchase and supporting the innovative school breakfast program. So just wanted to again, just highlight and clarify a couple of those because they're really, I think, critical, and just want to make sure that everyone's aware of those as you're writing your applications. Of course, happy to answer any questions. And actually, I think we're going to open it up for questions right now, right, Andrew? So
yeah, let me, Morgan, let me just hit a couple highlights that I wanted to stress but skipped over before. And thank you for that information on the reimbursements. A couple of these will be reiterating things, but I want to make sure you know, once again, you need to have a current USDA federal school breakfast program in operation to be eligible for these grants. This is federal money, but it's not from the USDA. I want to stress that when it comes to the type of model you're working for, or the trying to complete an application by the deadline, please do not hesitate to reach out to us for assistance in making this happen and making this work for you. Our goal is to give this money out and have it make an impact. So let us know how we can partner with you to make that happen. Finally, although we know they're supportive of these models, receiving this funding doesn't mean that your plan has been vetted by the USDA or DPI. And I say that just to make sure, you know, normal things like compliance about meal patterns and food safety are still in effect here and need to be approved by those organizations. Plenty of schools are already operating these innovative breakfast programs without an issue in that area. But I do want to clarify that just because the office of the governor is involved in these funds doesn't mean there's a state approval for your specific plan in those areas. What else? I want to note that it is 2:29, so whoever planned this webinar and expected to have half an hour for questions is nailing it totally. So what we're going to do next is just open it up for questions. I'm hopeful we've addressed a lot of the questions that have come in on your application forms or registration forms already, but please don't hesitate to re-ask things or reiterate things. On your Zoom line, there's a chat button, there's a Q&A button. You can use either of those to ask. I'm going to see if I can change the settings so that everyone can unmute, but I do ask if you try and use that raise hand button on the participants bar to ask before you speak up, but you should have plenty of ways to ask questions if you need to right now. So let's see, let me change this setting and we'll get to the first question. I see on here, how much has been budgeted to be distributed total? As you might have seen in the press release from the governor's office, it's just north of $1 million is the total grant pool. See a question from Paula. Can programs that have students come to the cafe to pick up their meal and take it to their classroom to eat meet the grant requirement? Yeah, I'm going to say yes, Paula. I'll reiterate what we said before about what counts as an innovative program. We've got our basic breakfast after the bell models that are a little more strictly structured and that many have used before. But for this, we want to make it easy to sculpt it to the schools that you're doing. Innovative needs to have a goal of increasing participation, and it needs to either have it served after the start of the school day and or out of the cafeteria. So I'm going to say if they come to the cafeteria to pick it up and then take it back to the classroom, that seems like something we would consider. Another question, are consultant fees an allowable expense? For instance, working with a consultant on developing a plan, training, best practices, etc. That is a great question. We have not gotten that one yet. The reason I hesitate is because I think through our partnerships with No Kid Hungry and some other organizations, we might be able to help you with that without a fee. And I'm wondering if that can be something that we support in addition to possible grant funds. So good question. Let me follow up more on that. And Jerry, if you'd email us directly to let us know a little bit more about what you're thinking in that area, I'd appreciate it. What other questions do you have?
Andrew, in the chat, Chrissy King has asked, did you say grant requested by a school district must be a minimum of $10,000? Yes,
that's correct. That's another area where we're happy to hear more from you about what you're what your needs are, and you know, you can even fill out an application and put in that main overview narrative if you have a compelling case to go below that. But we're really looking at a ground floor of $10,000 in order to, part of our job is to find a balance between the Office of the Governor's goal of spreading this as far and wide as possible, and also the logistics of being able to get this money out and into school districts as quickly and effectively as possible, and in ways that'll make a significant impact. I see if we have a site we cater meals to from another site and are looking for a way to have the ability to serve at the original site without transport, would this be covered? Yeah, I think the key would be if it meets those other innovative service requirements. Do you have some kind of service that's outside of the cafeteria? It sounds like this would, and or after the start of the school day. My key question there would be, is this just a replacement for the way you're serving meals to those students, or is this also designed to increase participation? I think that would be the key with an application like that. Morgan or anyone else, feel free to jump in if you disagree with my interpretations here or have additional thoughts. But I've got another question. Are added staff wages and benefits to package meals reimbursable? Yes, staff time is permitted as a reimbursable expense. We do think that the reimbursement process might be a little more complicated for you with staff time. So be aware of that, but no, it is permitted.
Yeah, I was going to add to that one, Andrew, that I would need additional kind of reporting and receipts for staff time that I probably won't need for instance, carts or other equipment purchases. So that would definitely be a conversation if the grant were awarded about like what that would look like as far as the reporting needs. And then also, Andrew, I didn't catch if you said this, but something else that has come up is if there are recurring items, right? That is specifically, I think, recurring items that are in the kind of pre-approved reimbursement category, meaning you haven't yet purchased them and you're planning to, that we would want to see a plan for the continuity of paying for those in the future to keep things up and running. I'm thinking specifically for like licenses for point of sale systems and things like that. So just something else to think about is if it's not a one-time purchase, we are going to want to know what your plan to continue to be able to provide that service or to continue that part of the program would be.
Absolutely. I see an addendum to the earlier question about meals offsite, that it is an early college site to increase participation. Yeah, that sounds great, especially if the goal is to increase participation. And I'll just offer another reminder that our priority, which is written into the original plan with the governor's office, is to focus on new CEP schools. So that'll be a major factor as well. Other questions, other concerns, other curiosities? Excellent. Well, as the questions slow down, I'll just go ahead and recap and say thank you to everyone for coming. And we're really excited about this opportunity. We really believe that these grants can make an impact on your districts and on access to healthy meals for kids. We know there's a lot of ways to make impacts on school nutrition programs right now and a lot of needs. This is the one we were able to work out with the governor's office, and we're really excited and passionate about what's going to be possible. And I see another question has come up, and I will answer it and continue to stay on for the rest of the hour for any other questions that come in. But for those who are feeling good, let me just say thank you, and that the application is at this URL, and we're available at any time to answer questions over email over the next few weeks as well. Absolutely, Tabitha. Another question from Alicia. How many new CEP schools are there? Would we still have a chance if we are not new? Good question. So second half first, you wouldn't be able to begin a new CEP program until the start of next school year, is my understanding. I think every April, the eligibility guidance comes out from USDA and DPI on which schools can participate, and then it's maybe a summertime, June 30th or something, deadline to decide. I hope I have that right. How many new CEP schools are there? I think North Carolina has added 600 to 700 just this school year, bringing the total among public schools up to like 63% of total schools, which is, outside of this grant, just thrilling that so many schools are working to get that access to healthy meals at no cost to families. And we hope to see that continue. Please make the recording available as soon as possible. I may share. Absolutely. Kathy, please expect it sometime tomorrow. We will work to make that happen. Would a non-CEP school have a chance of receiving a grant? Absolutely. New CEP schools are the priority, but any school operating school breakfast program is eligible. And without having all the applications in, we just don't know right now how much of an impact that priority will have, or how much room we'll have to grant to non-CEP schools. But please do apply, even if you don't have a CEP school, even if there's a mix of CEP and non-CEP in your application. And don't hesitate to, in that program overview narrative that we ask you to give, offer us the reasons why you think you have a really compelling case for having those schools included as part of this reimbursement grant. Any other questions or comments you guys have are welcome. I'm just gonna keep the pattern going and say the next things that come to my mind, which is a reminder that we've got this weird reimbursement period going back to July 1st, 2022, all the way to June 30th, 2024. So as you're thinking about what you want to apply for and what you could apply for, keep in mind that it can be both past expenses for programs you've already started as far back as last school year, or if you don't have any plans yet but want to make one and do something new, you can be pre-approved for upcoming expenses that you make between now and June 30th for upcoming work. And those funds, in terms of how the reimbursement process works, you'll need to liquidate those funds by June 30th, and then we have until September 30th, I think, Morgan, to collect those receipts from you for that process, if that makes a difference.
Right. So the receipts have to be dated by June 30th, 2024. And then you have until September 30th, 2024 to, well, actually, it's going to be a couple of days before that because I have to turn them in by September 30th, 2024. So a couple of days, mid-September, we'll say 2024 to turn in those receipts. And then again, about 3 weeks to receive the funds. And while we have a little break, I also just want to say thanks to everybody for joining and your interest in this grant. Looking forward to working with you and hearing your plans and what you're working on. And thanks for everything that you do every day. And we're so thrilled to be able to do a little bit to hopefully support that work and help expand those programs a little bit. So just super appreciative. And of CHI being able to partner on another opportunity. Really appreciate that as well. So thanks to everybody. We're so excited. And as Andrew will tell you, our emails and our phones are open. Happy to answer any questions that you think of driving home today, in bed tonight, 2 weeks from now. Happy to continue the conversation and answer any questions and support you in any way that we can through this process.
And I'll warn you now, we've got to list the new CEP schools to expect to hear from me, expect to hear from Helen Roberts with encouragement to be a part of this program and apply for funding. We're really eager to spread this to as many districts as possible. So without any new questions in yet, I guess we'll kind of formally end here. I will say on the line for the last 20 minutes. I know that we've had a few people come in just in the last few minutes, so I'll add that we will share out the recording as soon as possible. And let's see, there's another question that came in. I may have missed this answer, but how are reimbursements claimed? Will this be done in the technology system? No, this will not be done in TPI's technology system. You can pull data from there if you have it to use as like a reimbursement or an invoice. But on your application, you'll simply list in a spreadsheet the expenses that you're hoping to be reimbursed for in a very simple, casual way. And then if your application is selected to be awarded a grant, Morgan will work with you to get the specific receipts, invoices, documentation that is needed to be reimbursed. I think if you look in the instructions, it specifies a little bit more about those things.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, be looking for an email from North Carolina Alliance for Health. And then that will have the disposition on your application. And then if you're awarded, be looking for additional emails from me and my team about what we need in order to get those reimbursements over to you. Also, just wanted to reiterate as well, the finance officer is really critical. That's someone we ask for their contact information, and that's because of the way the finances are, or the funding is flowing, that we need to make sure we have their contact information to make sure we get everything we need and they get everything they need to be able to accept the funds. But again, be looking for an email from the North Carolina Alliance for Health on that.
I see another question. Will you consider awarding partial requests? That could mean a couple different things to me, so don't hesitate to type more info, but the budget amounts of requests we're looking for are between $10,000 and $50,000. If you make a $50,000 request and we only see $40,000 that feels applicable or awardable to us, I do think it's possible that we would reach out and let you know and give the chance for adjustment, or maybe make a partial award from your total application. Or maybe you mean if you're asking for a $100,000 refrigeration system, I'm just pulling a random example, and you're asking $50,000 to fund it from this grant and more for another, you would need to include justification or proof, a plan for where you're getting the funding for the other part of that request. I hope one of those answered your question. Great. Guys, thank you again so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the slides and give you the social permission to log off this webinar if you feel that you need it. But again, we will stick around for another 15 minutes for any remaining questions. Thank you, guys. And thank you again for the work you're doing on these programs.